Right, ladies and gentlemen, off we go with Rob van der Zon, born in the Hexenkessel, just down the road here, and I must just thank him for suggesting this as a venue, which is extremely appropriate, and certainly it's not very easy for the authorities to say, no, we don't like this kind of thing, and maybe we'll do things here again in the future, but hand over now to Rob van der Zon.
Welcome back.
Rob, can you come and stand over here? So just there.
This whole event is so controversial that even the local newspapers and broadcasting stations rejected it because it was not part of the deal and not part of the official story, which is kind of sacred. And well, there we are then, with a nucleus of people who are surely interested in the other side of the story, because there is another side of the story. And I was born in this street in 1958, so 60 years now. And well, I grew up with the whole market garden history, and that's the reason why I wrote this. People say it's wrong, it's market garden, two separate words, but it isn't. The fact that it's a market garden means you sow something in and there's yield. So it has to do with profit. You have to yield something, and that is in this case blood. And why it is blood, I will explain in a few seconds. And therefore I will remind you to the Baphomet, which is shown by Tony. And that's also a very serious part of the whole charade, which I like to present to you, and the connection I make between whatever happened here and why it mysteriously went wrong and was sabotaged by the people who were told to get the bridge and get the war over as soon as possible. The other thing is, which hasn't been meant, that the air troops of the Air Force was at superior strength in that time, in 1944. They could have easily bombed out the German nests of resistance or whatever, which the 30 Corps couldn't, and certainly the air landing troops couldn't. But apart from that, it was a creative failure, as I believe. And when I was a young boy, the monument and the museum wasn't there. I can remember the 50th birthday, wedding day of my grandparents were kept there because it was a luxurious place and a good hotel to stay. But now it's in a museum, and the obelisk, which I call it now, because my knowledge has improved about that subject now, was already built there, and it was done after the war, and I researched that process thoroughly, and I know who built it and why, and who the masons were, and the men who made the statues and everything. And there's much more to tell than the plaque, the official plaque, which is there on some kind of pedestal-like thing, which more or less tell you what the reason is for the symbolics and the design of the monument. And next please. And therefore I suggest that the market garden operation was destined to fail for a certain reason. And a certain reason I will give you, and therefore the coincidence helped me a little bit. I knew before 2007, I knew a bunch of people who were spiritually searching for enriching themselves in knowledge and insight, and what your position should be as a human being in life. And after a lot of discussions, we said the only way to do that is to go on the streets and to be what you like Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in this world. So what we did, we organized a march, and the march was from the northern eastern part of the Netherlands, called Verhej in Groningen, and it was all the way through a few spots in Germany, to a spot in Belgium, just across the border, and then all the way up to Hartenstein in North Holland. It's the northwestern part of the Netherlands. And all this is a distance covered, and it was 440 kilometers. And of course, you can't walk straight away, so you have to go. You have to make all these diversions but we did it with an. I could rent somebody's horse. I made a cart, and off we went on the 21st of June in the year 2007. And there we went with a peace flag and all that. A bit like hippie-ish thing, but I think, well, it couldn't do any harm or whatever. So we went to Drenthe, a place called Mantingen. Drenthe is a province in the Netherlands, and we met Marieke de Vrij, which is a woman with special properties. She's psychic. She can see things which other people can't see, and she discovered the difficulties there were with the dikes, the water barrier in the western part of the Netherlands, and it was confirmed by the Rijkswaterstaat, which is the government of the Netherlands, which is especially for water buildings to keep the water out. And there was another person there called Tony Eikenboom. She's a specialist in gemstones and crystals and healing stones, which I think, well, it's nice if you believe in that, but if it adds anything to it, it's good. But then she said, I do so much sympathize with your whole idea that I have to give you a present which is specially selected for this kind of energy. So she came up with a lot of quartz crystals, and she said, "This is a big one. You have to keep this as a contribution for the whole group, and I have a special crystal that you could put there. There are the points where you have reached, and there's a little crystal for everyone personally." So I didn't take any notice, and finally tapped on the shoulder and said, "Rob, you have to make your choice. There's only one left." And I got this crystal, which was the biggest one. And well, I save you all the rest of the story, because we finally got through Germany and the southern part of Holland. We came into Belgium, met a lot of wonderful people, silly engagements, and we drank a lot of beer and a lot of good fun. But in the end, the last cluster of crystals was buried there by somebody else, because I couldn't take much more time to do everything. But it was buried there in the dunes of the northern part of the Netherlands. Then I came home. Well, I thought, well, this is a souvenir or something, a giving, which I might put on the cupboard to build your stories around. But then one day I thought, well, maybe this stone would like to tell me something more. So I got into the little boys book comic mode, and I put it into my pocket, and I went on a Sunday morning, I went into Oosterbeek, and I very childishly thought, well, what does this one want to tell me? It's a little bit childish, like thinking, but I thought, let's have the fun, let's have the joke. So came across churches, and I thought, this church steeple, this tower might be, no, this is the what? Or the slender, long tree might be this one. But it doesn't did anything to me. So I wandered around a little bit and came at the Airborne Museum, and then suddenly I thought, well, oh, the monument. And I took it out of my pocket and kept it in front of the monument, and suddenly I got sort of hit by a very mysterious feeling that there was a sort of connection between this. And on the very same spot, at the very same moment, like they say in Holland, all the coins start to fall. And can I have the next picture, please? And then, because the route I took stood in the sign and the energy of peace, connectedness, and freedom. The V, everything is a V. So V for victory, true victory, which is peace and connectedness and freedom. And can I have the next, please?
Oh, next to the same.
And then I ran into the mysterious, this is the man who had been mentioned by Tony before, the Christian Lindemann. And then I thought, the market garden has got everything to do with merchandise. And merchandise in blood, merchandise in making money. And I thought, well, the monument, could I have the next one, please? And I knew that the Battle of Arnhem was given away by somebody, so that's why it was a failure. This was the place where the monument was erected here, just after the war. The next, please. And this is the place where the monument was nearly ready, except for the capstone, which is the statue that was placed in the end on the big pole, obelisk, what I call. There's nothing else but an obelisk. And next, please. And there's a statue that makes that's the connection between the truth and this bloody crystal, because the moment I've seen it before for a million of times, because I motorcycled across that place for many times, and then I knew, I got you. You have a complete other symbolic behind you. You are not the savior of home and comfortability and safety of a household, as a mother, as a keeper of peace and a raiser of your children. You're a devilish person yourself from way back a long time ago. And then the first thought I got into my mind, I thought, you are Diana, the goddess of the hunting. And then I came home and I thought, well, I have to look it up. And I took my computer here, little laptop, and I started to fiddle around and I looked for Diana. And I ran into a piece of the text by David Icke. And David Icke is an English researcher, let's say. And he has the quite complete story about every secret detail which is going on in the background these days. And he confronted me with the name Semiramis. And can I have the next? Well, this is an exhibit of more obelisks all over the world. This is nothing new. They started with building obelisks in Egypt, and it is only a marking place of a place of spiritual force to concentrate power, which is not there by natural means. It was made by man, by rituals, and I thought, well, the monument in Oosterbeek is of the same kind. It is an artificially created place where they concentrated some sort of force, some power. And I immediately got some sort of connection with how come, and I knew of the Bilderberg story before, how come that a very rural-like hotel like the Bilderberg Hotel was picked out by Bernard, who got the money from the OSS from America, to organize the first Bilderberg conference here in Oosterbeek, 731 meters away from the nucleus of the blood sacrifice that was happened here. And then I thought, well, this is kind of tinkling. It tinkled my mind, and I thought, well, there's probably much more to it. And then I started research. And can I get one back, please? And there you see there's this symbol here, which everybody could recognize as a Christian cross, but isn't, because in all of Christian tradition, or Orthodox, Coptic, or whatever, you never find a woman figure with a cross. Oh, that's oh yeah. with a cross sign in the vicinity of her legs of her own crotch. You never find that. In no painting, no drawing, no statue, nowhere, nothing. The sign of the cross should be something away from her, above her, and never on this level. But the funny thing is, it isn't a cross. It just is the upper part of an anchor. You know, the anchor. Yeah. Everybody knows an anchor, the bow, and the thing. That's the anchor.
Egyptian.
Yeah, and the anchor is the anchor is a foundation symbol, a foundation, and Semiramis is the founders of the city-state Babylon, and Babylon is the key word for everything, and the market garden is Babylon, and the dove she has on her arm is not a peace dove. Can I have the next one? Oh, the next one here, so. Next one.
Yeah.
Well, there she is again. Colomba. Colombia. Colomba is the Roman word for dove. And this woman wearing the fire, that's the Luciferian sign. The woman with a blue coat, she's Semiramis. And everybody who knows Maria and Joseph and Jesus, this is Maria. Maria is Semiramis, because it has been taken out of the Babylonian shit and put it into the Christian minds and make the people believe that Jesus was born on the 25th. But this is all bloody nonsense, because it was Tammuz, the son of Semiramis and Nimrod.
Next, you have to do it.
Next one. Yeah. There she is again. And everybody will recognize this is the Statue of Liberty in New York. But it was created in France by the Freemasons and given to the state of America, of New York. So that everybody, because we have been established ourselves here as well.
Next.
Next. Ah, this is the dove. And this little branch, everybody knows the story of Noah and his big boat, where every species was gathered and saved because of the flood that God gave on the world to destroy everything, including the big giants and the Satanists and everything that was corrected with the Nephilim, the fallen gods. And Noah sent a pigeon out, but sending out an animal is giving away your complete collection of animals to find something out. So this animal was offered. It was a sacrifice. And a sacrifice to see if there's something alive already at the dry land there. And he came back with a branch. So he knew there is dry land now. So the end of the journey is here. And later people naively translated into a peace dove, which isn't, of course. It's a sacrificial animal. And therefore the Semiramis has this dove, which is Columba. And Victor Columbus was sent to the Americas, not to discover it, no, to find out if there are some tribes who have knowledge on spirituality, which is equal to the Vatican, which have to be destroyed, which happened. Cortes and his awful gang. There you have an old picture which is the same deity, and the thing is nothing special to it. Some people say there's Maria and Jesus. That's what I feel like to think that, okay, but watch these stars. Watch these stars. And there's another picture of all the same. It's all about the same person, but it is Semiramis with a child, not with a child, but the sitting pose, blah blah blah. All the same persons throughout the time, in different cultures and different religions. But it's all related to the Queen Heaven of Babylon. This the monument being erected just after the war. The funny thing is, there was a very strong emotion in Oosterbeek by the local people to have something to commemorate and to honor the troops who fought here bitterly and died here. So money was collected to erect a little monument, and it was very modest. But by the time a department in The Hague called Airborne, they stopped the process and forbid the continuation of building the monument because they had something else in mind. And what they had in mind was, of course, something of bigger structure, a bigger statue. Which this is the beginning of the process of building, and it was much more elaborate than the original thought of the little monument. And the architect and the strange person, I could not get any better than this, because I have to grab it from where I can find the picture. But some people said it could be Prince Bernard, but that means that the villain himself visits his own
scene of the crime.
Yeah, evil structure. Well, there it is. This is the unveilment of the monument by the former Dutch Queen Wilhelmina, the one who flew to England, fled to England by probably an English, I don't know what his rank was, joined by the British troops, coming especially to the Netherlands to be present at that event. and this Hotel Bilderberg. Then I have to make a swift connection to Hotel Bilderberg. Because, like I said, 731 meters from the monument was this hotel located, and everybody knows now that Prince Bernhard in '55 founded the first Bilderberg meeting with the help of former Nazis, Rettinger, the Jewish, the Polish guy who helped him because of it was all networking. You have to grab all the people of importance to make form some sort of deep state on which they could make the bridge to America, because the money came from America, and to establish a nucleus of power here, concentrate forces, concentrate authority, get rid of all the separate national governments, and centralize it into Brussels, which is happened now.
That's an interesting sign at the top of the
pentagram too,
pentagram.
Yeah,
pentagram.
probably due to Christmas celebrations.
Oh right.
But it's very sticky. That's true. Well,
green to be Christmas.
Well, and then I fall into symbolics, because here is the stars again, which I showed before, and they're all the pentagram with the pointed, with the inverted pentagram with the point down, which is the negative, force of let's say a satanic symbol. And what we see here, Europe, many tongues, one voice. That's Babylonian, or not? It's like rectifying everything to one idea, like Hitler said, ein vereintes Europa unter deutsche Führung. That means a united Europe under Dutch rule. And that's what we get. That's what we get. And you see, they are building the bridge, and this is the original painting by Peter Bruegel from, I think, 1537. And in the same manner, they have built the parliaments in Brussels and Strasbourg. Well, this is the result. This is a combination of the old statue, of the old painting, and this is what is today the government building. Is that a coincidence, or just an architectural flaw?
You're a conspiracy theorist, Tom.
Yeah, I guess so. And well, you have here this river, blue canal, whatever it is, connected with more sea, and this is the original painting. And what we have here, water, the building, and this is the final thing. Well, this is what we came up with. Enslaved.
Excellent.
Enslaved within a system but nobody knows is not beneficial for us. We lost our democracy, whatever we had. We got rid of a national coin, which was the guilder, and now we have to deal with the bloody euro, which is taken out of going to be taken out of our hands very soon, because the banks are pushing the use of the PIN card, and everybody is willingly, docilely using the PIN card, and they say, "Oh, it's very handy. It's very handy. I don't have any carry. It's dangerous to kill." The fear is the weapon of these bastards. The more fear you feel by assassins, false flag operations, the more they have grip on your mind. And there's more to come. Vaccinations, fluoridation of drinking water. If you buy any bottle of water, look for the for the sticker which on, which has an F. An F is definitely fluoride. There is natural water with fluoride in it. There's calcium fluoride. It's connected with calcium, which is quite harmless, and it's only there in very small amounts. But the fluoride, which is in 2 space, and nowadays in drinking water, is absolutely 100% sodium fluoride, which is an
byproduct.
Byproduct of production of aluminium, which is next to arsenicum, the most poisonous stuff you can have. And everybody's polishing the teeth and bring it in under your gums, where it's very rapidly absorbed in your body. And what it does, and that's the mean thing, it calcifies your pineal gland. And what's your pineal gland? It's not just a holy-folly spiritual kind of thing, but your pineal gland gives you early warning about things to come. It makes you suspicious of things that may encounter you. Animals have it. If my wife only is at the main street with the car, the cat's already running at the top of the stairs because they know she's coming. And that's because of the animals. They don't use fluoride. They've not been poisoned for that. They know what's going to happen. And that's what we need to do. Be very vigilant of our health and of our life, because these bastards want to enslave us and practically giving us a sort of communist, fascist system which nobody benefits from. Even animals will suffer. Like I'm an amateur beekeeper, and I have problems keeping these bees alive, because the European Union has for another 5 years prolonged the use of glyphosate, of Roundup, which is produced by Monsanto, which has a connection with Bayer, and then we come back to IG Farben.
Yeah.
That's about the story I want to tell you. There's a connection between the European Union and the blood sacrifice of the Battle of Arnhem through the foundation of the Bilderbergers, in which they firstly founded the European Community for Coal and Steel. It was in the year after, 1955. So they acted very quickly. They were in a hurry, and not long thereafter, you had the Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, also some sort of conglomeration. And then in '63, you had the EEG, the Economic Union. And then in 2000, you get the European Union. And that's the final tool to get everything concentrated. That's my find. And if you ever go there and you see the monument and know that there's another story to it, and it has all to do with the blood sacrifice of killing people uselessly, because, like you said, they stopped that land and it didn't go any further, because they know these guys on the north and on the north side of it, they have to die. They have to disappear. They have to give their blood. We have to give that blood sacrifice to the Babylonian idea, to establish the monument with a force. And I've researched. Some people might say, well, you're talking bollocks, but you have something like the Bovis value. André Bovis was a guy who could define the value of fresh vegetables, fresh beans, fresh lettuce, whatever, and the value of an animal which has to be slaughtered or whatever, and what it is in value after it has been dead and ready for consuming. And I found out that the monument has a value of 6,500, and that says nothing. But I did also research the environment, the vicinity, and it had only 4,000, which is normal. That means there's something going on there. And I took my little compass and I registered the course, and I took a card. I've done a lot of sailing and whatever have you. And I wrote the course on the map, and I came across Iraq, which was the former Babylon.
Wow.
So the fucker has his eyes towards Babylon. And there's also a thing I found out with the 4 arms, which is many pictures ago. But you have to, if you have the chance, visit it. You see these arms that have to do with the precession of the Earth axle. But it is too far beyond this lecture to go into that. But there's something very fishy, and don't have yourself deceived by the so-called truth. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, so thanks very much, Rob. It's now, if the technology is going to be with us, time for Marco Verhej. Is that right? Oh, Marco, I keep them watching. Yeah. From We Are Change Rotterdam, do his short presentation, then we just have some questions after, of any of us three, when we're finished. It's Verhej, but he was
I wonder if they didn't succeed to let us fail. Yeah. There should have been a plan B. If they succeeded to conquer the bridge, what was plan B to give it a hold? D. Do you have an idea about it, or find some?
Well, we can ask that question in a minute, but it's over to Marco.
Oh, sorry.
Are you ready, Marco?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Oh yeah, je doet ook eens presenteren. Ja, doe het eens. Oh, excuus.
Strakjes. Ik ben niet lang bezig hoor. Ik ben niet lang bezig.
Nee, maar maakt niet uit. Nee, maar ik had dacht dat het...
You know, the final speaker here, Marco. I'm Marco Verhej from We Are Change .nl. At the back is Maria. You can see that. Yeah. Going to be talking about us, even though I sometimes say me. It's all about us. Yeah. Okay, a bit of history about ourselves. Back in the 80s, when I was 15 or 14, the next door neighbor, a kid who was a few years older, came to me and he said, "Did you hear about this thing called the Bilderberg? It's all the elite meeting up from around the world. What do you think? Do you think that will be good? What do you think is bad?" I said, "I think it's good. Maybe this prevents wars. Yeah? If the elites from the Soviet Union come together with the elites from the United States, that might bring world peace." And then later on, I forgot about the whole thing. Then after the year 2000 and 9/11, I got into the internet. Before I was into it a bit, then I got into the internet and I found this thing called Bilderberg. Bilderberg is always associated with burnout. And so that's why I thought, hey, there's something Dutch going on here. So Bilderberg is something Dutch, and there's a hotel even in Oosterbeek, which is called the Bilderberg. There's this burnout guy who's intriguing, to say the least. Yeah, so I got really interested. And I did watch some documentaries, but I always found it a bit fake. So the thing was that after the financial crisis of 2008, I got excited and thought, hey, we need to do something, or I need to do something. And that's when Occupy globally existed. And so I thought, oh, I really need to get to Occupy to see what I can do there. And back in 2011, I did. And I walked by 3 times. I thought, no, this is not for me. And then later on, I went past, and that was Maria. She was there already at Occupy Rotterdam. Okay, we were with Occupy Rotterdam for a few months. Then our great mayor, Ahmed Abu Taleb, the mayor of Rotterdam, he took our tent away. We were no longer allowed to put our tent up. So we thought, what sort of method are we going to use now? And that's what we're thinking, what can we do? And I was filming already at Occupy, so I thought, I want to make more films. And then we thought, what if we join a group called We Are Change? I'm going to write it down. I'm thinking about it. We are change. And as Rob was saying earlier, this We Are Change's name comes from Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the world. Well, we say we are the change in the topic or the theme of journalism. So what we thought, we need to put the spotlight on things that the mainstream media does not put a spotlight on. From that moment on, so from 2012, we made We Are Change, and of course we thought, yeah, We Are Change is based in New York, it already existed, so we thought we were going to do it We Are Change Rotterdam, because that was where we were from. Okay, when we got into We Are Change, I thought, wow, this is a great chance for me to get into this Bilderberg stuff. Yeah, now I can even try to make a film about it, or go to The Hague and ask some politician who's been to Bilderberg. Yeah, how was it at Bilderberg? Why were you there? So confronting politicians, and I think we did that from day one. Yeah, I think already a few weeks after we started out, Maria was the one that really confronted a lot of VVD politicians in Rotterdam. That's when, yeah, we started out, and I think that continuing now from 2012 on to now, we got about 20 people that we confronted, Bilderbergers. Most of them, because we've been saving them up the last 2 years, most of them you can find at We Are Change Rotterdam. I'll make the name clear. We Are Change Rotterdam on YouTube. So please have a look at these confrontations. It is interesting. Some of the people, they are open about it. They talk about it the way that they feel comfortable. Other people don't feel comfortable about talking about Bilderberg. And then also at the end of 2012, we found out, whoa, what now? In 2013, the Bilderberg will be in Watford, close to London. Isn't that amazing? We can actually go there. So we did. Yeah, we took the car and drove all the way up there, took a ferry from Calais. So we came there, and I remember walking onto the festival terrain, because there was a festival there, and I saw all these alternative journalists, like We Are Change Lukowski, they all went to this one person. So I went running there as well, and put my camera up. They were all interviewing Mr. Tony Gosling. That was the first time I saw him. And then I asked some people, who is he? They said, oh, he's an ex-BBC journalist. And then I thought, well, I'm not interested. Really, really. But then came 2014 when it was in Denmark. Were you there? In Denmark? No? Me neither. And then came 2015. Were you there? In Austria?
No.
No? But then came 2016 and we got to know Tony. You interviewed me. In Dresden, of course. So we went to Watford in 2013, we went in 2015 to Austria, to Dresden, which was really good. Dresden was really good. We could confront some of the Bilderbergers walking out. We managed to film them walking from the hotel to this big castle where they had the dinner. So that was 2016. Last year it was in the States, so we couldn't be there. And this year we were in Turin. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about Turin. In Turin, behind this building that you see is an old Fiat factory. And the old Fiat factory is where the Bilderberg was held. Now, I should say that one of these big names in Bilderberg, the big Italian name, is Agnelli. Agnelli is the founder of the Fiat factory. And his grandson, or even I think further, a man called John Elkann, he organized this Bilderberg, and so he thought, oh, that would be great if we could do it in our own old factory. So there's a hotel there. And when we came there the first day, we checked out the hotel to see what the hotel was about. Afterwards, we thought, when they arrive, because we definitely want to catch these people on camera when they arrive. So we thought, how can we catch these people? Because it was all built in. You could not see from outside the area, inside where they would get out of the car to enter the hotel. Here, this is me. I'm sitting in the building of the Polytechnic in Turin, the Polytecnico di Torino, and we asked to film there. So we went inside the building and we simply asked the personnel, tomorrow can we go up to the 3rd floor to film outside? And the guy said, well, do you want to film our students? We said, no, not interested. We just want to film outside, that's all. So we did, and on that day, I've been sitting like this for, I think, 5 hours. Yeah, filming outside. So every time I put up the camera, every time I saw a car enter, and I had to zoom all the way in to get a close-up of people arriving. Yeah, so we got, I think, over 40 Bilderbergers arriving. Now, you would say, it's a guy coming out of his car, walking into the Bilderberg hotel, or walking into a hotel. What is that? Yeah? You've been sitting there for 5 hours doing that? But I would say, if I would get somebody on camera here, and you would know that person, and you would confront him with that, you would say, oh, I've seen you entering the Bilderberg, they would not like it. And to me, I think that is important, to confront these people with what they're doing. So that's why I was there. Yeah. It was also nice that we told the Russian TV crew, and later on they used some of the footage that I took for their evening news, I think. Yeah. Okay, about We Are Change, I should inform you, because this is promotional of course, that we also have We Are Change as one word. I'm writing it now. WeAreChange.nl. So we promoted ourselves not to just being from Rotterdam, but from Holland. So this is our website, WeAreChange.nl. This is our YouTube channel. Please go and have a look, because I need to say the Bilderberg is really my thing. I really want to stress that Bilderberg is something that I've made this my hobby. I really like to investigate. It's so exciting for me to do all this. But we have other subjects as well. For the Dutch people, you might have known about our Secretary General of the Ministry of Justice, who was accused of being a paedophile. The mainstream media, we thought, did not do this well, so we confronted the man himself. Maria did, went walking up to him and asking questions. Also, we did an undercover documentary on benefits in Rotterdam, where people who were on benefits were put into slave labor. Yeah, so people did not get any money, not get anything that normal people who are employed get. So we got into that as well. We got into loads of subjects. Sometimes we only have one video about a subject, but I need to say, the last thing I say is, please have a look on our channel. One of our last videos is about AI, artificial intelligence. It's about the Internet of Things and about 5G. All these things are coming, and they're coming really fast. They're coming in. We did a documentary, especially Maria again, we did a documentary of 1 hour in which we have interviews with people who can tell you a lot more about everything that's coming. It's called Digitropolis, the dark side of AI. So that was my talk. Thank you very much.
Oh, well.
I think maybe if you want to come up again, Rob, let's just have some questions. Yes. We should really be finishing now, but I'm sure they won't mind if we have a bit of questioning from our audience. And you can either direct it at come over here, Rob. Either direct it at any one of us, or all of us, or none of us. So,
yeah,
Alex.
Yeah, you would.
Oh. Perspective of all three of you, if I can, please.
Could you just say who you are?
Yeah, Alex Thompson, living in the Netherlands now for nearly 10 years. Freelance interpreter mainly at the EU, which is not my political preference, but one has to earn a living. One of the things we have covered on my, an independent news programme I work for, UK Column, and I've spoken to Tony Gosling about this, is EU military unification, often referred to wrongly by shorthand as the EU Army, and it's wrong because it's actually subsuming the existing national militaries and controlling their budgets rather than having a Where do you think that ties into this? Particularly given that, okay, all three of you have presented German blue blood dominance, German aristocratic dominance of the Anglosphere, and taking its inspiration from Babylon, but we know increasingly that it was a British, City of London and British civil service plan to unite the militaries of Europe. And now we have disclosure of a 1948 cabinet paper from the then Prime Minister Clement Attlee talking about how we are going to get the Continentals to merge their militaries using a propaganda effort based in Britain and in Wall Street. So where do you see that tying in to the Market Garden plans?
Well, I don't think anything to do particularly with Market Garden, because that was a way of delaying the end of the war to make sure that the Nazis had time to get their wealth out, so they need that extra 5 months. But the military is obviously key. If you want to have a United States of Europe military, you must get that military as one. And that's, I think, been very difficult because the military is split. My experience talking to the British military is that they are happy to do joint exercises, but don't even talk to me about making those one unit of some sort. I've seen in the UK in the last 5 years some other units from other European countries, like French units driving down British roads, and that's, to me, is quite a big surprise. But I think one of the major pushes against the European Union in Britain is actually from within the military, because they can see a much wider picture, and they have also access to, I think, a lot more, particularly the military intelligence branches, rather than, so we've got lots of different intelligence services. You've got the army intelligence, naval intelligence, and there is a certain amount of independent-mindedness within those specific forces intelligence services. They don't just do what they're told, and they don't necessarily believe, particularly after weapons of mass destruction, what MI6 says anymore. So, you know, the Foreign Office has got its own intelligence service, MI6. All I'm saying is the individual services don't buy it, and so they are actually quite I suppose a lobby against a United States of Europe.
And maybe a more pointed question for the two Dutchmen is, how is it that the Dutch military and the political controllers of them have allowed a situation where something like 2/3 of the really important parts of the Dutch military are now under German command?
That's part of the deal. Yeah, because I'm a Dutchman myself, but I consider the general Dutch mentality as spineless and cowardice, extremely, and they are not ever have any thought of standing up and being less docile than they are, because they are the bravest doggy in the kennel, and they will always keep following the big mouth. But that's because the Anglification of the Dutch language is a disease, and Britain and England used to be the biggest empire in the world. They're called the Pax Britannica. It's now turned into Pax Americana, and you will soon discover that there's a Pax Judaica, that Israel is using all standing on the shoulders of the former mighty warriors, and the Netherlands back in every form, every way. They have no seagoing force anymore, and they're just doing as being told.
As long as they can make money.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've read is that the initiative for the European community already had this, you already said as well. It had in its package a European army. It's something that the Americans wanted, like you said as well. The Americans just wanted Kissinger, just one phone number to call up, so they also wanted just one army. And from what I read is that it was impossible through all the budgets of all these countries to make it into one. It was too difficult. And for me, looking at, as a Dutch person, looking at the cooperation between the Germans and the Dutch, I think that for decades after the war this was not possible. People just were not ready for it. So when I was in the army in '89, there was already, I think, this combined battalion with Germans and Dutch. And of course, for decades, I think from the 60s onwards, or maybe even earlier, the Dutch Marines and Dutch Navy do lots of exercises and things with the British. But there is talk again of a European army, yeah? I don't know. I think it's a bad idea, of course, but I don't know if they're ever going to succeed in that. I think it might be a bit too difficult plan for them.
It's here, Jane.
It's another matter is the procurement of equipment, and so by
NATO have always had their own part numbers, for example, right over NATO. NATO have done a big job over the years in trying to make sure that the military hardware is all interchangeable right across. Yeah, so
and that ultimately is in the interest.
Anyway, so any more questions? Yes.
Yeah, as an adjustment, did anybody here ever realize that in 1919 you have the Park Secret agreements and shit, whatever, that when you have an international agreement, it can never last longer than 100 years. Then it's every time it's finished. Yeah, and to the gateway from Europe to the oil fields, they tried over Turkey, and they for extra trying over the Ukraine, but Russia blocked it. And so they started a revolt in that area. Yeah, this IS, which is I have talked to witnesses, who were there and saw that IS is daily supported with American goods. Yeah, that's a fact. All this it all started in the First World War. So Market Garden, the achievement to finish the war was in people who were in the First World War, and all the politics after 1900. It was a disaster when they would succeed. So they had to do something to prolong the.
So did you have a question? Or
no,
just want to make a point.
Just keep it in mind,
yeah.
Because that's the bottom of where it all started. Right. Okay. No
anyone else got a question?
Very, very quick one. Significance of 731.
731. Significance. No, there's no significance in that. I just mashed it out.
Fine. It's 11. 731. 11.
Yeah, if you numerologically count it up, then it's right. Yeah. But the other thing is, why that stupid hotel? There's nothing. If you haven't been there, there's a conference room, a few dining rooms, and the bar and the foyer. Like everybody.
That's the secret area of Bernard. Lunch lived there. I spent a lot of time in I lived there, I think, for a while, and I walked a lot with dogs, and all the retired politicians I saw weekly lunch. All the assholes were there secretly, and why not? They ate there with Knijnenburg and
excellent brandy they have.
Yeah.
Well, you're quite drunk and all.
But if you would start a conference of a global format, you would pick that kind of city hotel.
Prince Bernhard was not allowed to get involved in political decisions. Wilhelmina go there, and he went to the bar, with all the officers, where all the CIA and FBI and MI5 drink and ate, and they had ideas of a next generation's great Europe or one great world, and Prince Bernhard is an opportunity taker, and so he said, that's interesting. So he planted all the seeds everywhere to get it done. And I know in Holland there's in Overijssel there's a province, and there's a duchess or a van Adel.
Noble.
Yeah, a noble, a castle. Yeah, and they had 2 times a year they had hunting parties with all the noble guys or big politicians, big military men, state men from the Prussians, whatever. It started in 1800. My brother saw this hunting book because it's obliged. We are sitting here with these people. We shot deers and rabbits and pheasants, and we made this recipe and so on. It's all the time until 1914. Yeah, there were all the nobles of all Europe sat there. Nobles and big politicians and military officers. Yeah, also the Queen from that time and Prince Bernhard. They were all connected, like with all the nephews in Russia. The First World War when it started, they all knew each other. 2 times a year they sat there. Now, from the Second World War, all the Dutch Queen was gone, all the Polish nobles were gone, but all the big Prussian militaries and big Nazi guys ate there. The war was over, and all the Queen was there, and all the big Nazi guys, and they ate there. Prince Bernhard knew everybody with influence all over Europe. This book was on an auction. Yeah, my brother saw it. There was immediately one guy. It didn't even reach the auction. It was vanished. And that book, that hunting book, that's the most important evidence for all the things where we are talking about it for this time.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Are we nearly finished now?
Just one quick point.
Yeah, go on.
Tony.
Yeah, okay.
With regard to
just
Bernard,
introduce yourself, yeah?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Tony Williams,
Friend
friend of everybody here, I think. I had the unusual experience of meeting Bernard once without knowing who he was. And I spoke with him for about an hour. And the upshot of it was that when I first met him, he had a manservant. I thought he was gay, and that was his toy boy. But it wasn't. It was his butler. And I would say this: he gave me a master's handshake. Mm. So I know that he was on the square, as they say. Just as a point, we're talking about Bilderberg. I think that might be a big connecting link.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the other things I didn't mention was the Masonic evidence of the Masonic involvement with Bilderberg. We saw the kings and whatever with their nice aprons, but the Joseph Ratzinger, he was a Freemason, most definitely. He was the main organiser of the first meeting, alongside with Bernhard, and also Andrew Palmer, who he was the organiser of the Turnberry Bilderberg in 1998. I got hold of a copy through nefarious means of his CV, and on there he was boasting how he'd been the personal assistant to the Duke of Kent, who's the Grand Master of United Grand Lodge in London. Yeah. So there's definitely this Masonic connection. I don't think there's much doubt about that. Alex, you want to say something?
Yes, about the Freemasonic. The other Freemasonic club in the world at the close of the war was that of Truman, who was waiting in the wings to become US President, and the Magic 12 secret network. So are there any indications that Truman or men around Truman, the White House administration waiting to take over from FDR, was already looking at Market Garden?
Well, I don't know if they were looking at Market Garden, because I think the evidence is that the Americans fought as hard as they could. Gavin and who was the guy down in Eindhoven? I'm not sure the general was, but they did their job as well as they could. It was Boy Browning from the British who was constantly wasting gliders on his headquarters and steering. They arranged a night assault on the Nijmegen Bridge. At the last minute, Browning cancelled it. This was the previous night. I guess it would be the night of the 19th. They said, well, we have enough men now, spare, that we can go, or maybe the 18th, to get into Nijmegen Bridge. And just as they were about to prepare to do this from the 82nd Airborne, it was Browning's. His fingerprints are all over the sabotage of this operation. Getting the Groesbeek Heights. That wasn't their objective. Right. The objective was the bridge. Gavin was a young man who was influenced by Browning to take the wrong directions as a general. So the evidence, from as far as I can see, is the Americans fought incredibly hard. It was definitely Horrocks and obviously Bernhard, but Horrocks and Browning had no intention of winning the battle. I don't think both of them stopped it. So anyway, I think probably it'd be nice to go on. Sorry,
I mentioned this earlier to you personally, but I've had a struggle against Freemasonry all my life. I've known hundreds and hundreds of Freemasons, and I'm philosophically against everything that they represent. But Tom mentioned, and you mentioned, Baphomet. And obviously we know that that's the symbol of Satanism and so on. You also mentioned Dennis Wheatley. As a young man, I used to read these books purely to find out what was going on with the rituals and so on. But I did mention earlier to you that Albert Pike, who you mentioned earlier, Before Albert Pike came back to London to instigate himself with the lodges at the Grand Lodge in London, he was amazing, obviously. But when he came back, he revised all the texts of the Masonic rituals. So you had all the texts. I can give you the list of them, but I have seen the pre-redacted texts, which include the name of Jesus Christ. So there was a form of religion which was separate in Freemasonry, but it was based on Christianity. After Albert Pike came along, all of the words were redacted, and instead you had the great architect substituted for God, or for anything that was a deity. So Baphomet, of course, is the symbol.
Doctrines and Dogma is his book from Albert Pike.
Morals and Dogma.
Morals and Dogma.
Yeah. Anyway, I've paid something like 650 quid to come here and do this. Obviously, I'm not expecting it all back, but what I have done is, if anyone, and obviously the event's free, if anyone wants to buy for €10, I've done a little printout report of the research that I've done over the last, really it's been the best part of 2 or 3 months on market gardens specifically for this, which includes things like the ultra decrypt, which gives us evidence that the Nazis knew on the 9th of September that they're coming. And this is not just say-sos, this is hard evidence of fact. Because I believe you've got to, as a journalist, you've got to make an absolute, and I've said this to a few people today, a brick wall between fact and speculation. And one of the great things that you guys do is you don't even have to do that, because you're sticking the camera right in their faces and there's no arguing with what they're saying. But anyway, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming here.
I have a question for you.
Go on then.
What I am lying awake about is the blood sacrifice, which is absolutely, for me, is true, 100% true. But is it just a side effect, or was it a means to achieve that?
I think it was something that just came along because they knew they needed the extra 5 months, and this operation happened, and they knew that they had to sabotage it. So the Americans, I mean, it also served a purpose which I write about in this report, which is the switch from Britain to America. So Monty is discredited. The Americans are now the heroes. They're taking over at the end of the war. So that was another effect of Market Garden, is that it was a way of saying the British don't know what they're doing. And Patton, all the supplies then went down to Patton in the south. And so it was quite an important moment in history, not very much of which we're getting through the official celebration of events. So anyway, I'll just be selling some of these. If anyone would like one for €10 or a donation, I'd appreciate it.
Is it alright to share it?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, spread the word.
Yes, of course. So just thank you. I'll just a little round of applause for our.
Thank you.